Good evening. My name's Gina. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to do a flip through of a book that I received today. I received this book from a company called Pray to Me Publishing. I'd never heard of it until I saw it advertised on or spoken about on a website somewhere. And they do a whole lot of Elvis stuff, and they're actually based in Germany. They have DVDs and books and all sorts of things. There is a volume 1 of Behind the Image. Oh, that's where I saw it, on Sean's Sincerely Elvis channel. Yeah, Sean over in America, England. Anyway, Sean knows where he is. Yeah, so he did a review, I think, of might have been volume 1. And then he talked about this one, and he said it was actually the better of the two. So I hopped on the website, Play to Me, and saw what they had and decided it'll be for me. So, Pray to Me Publishing, yeah. Bud Glass Productions, whoever Bud Glass is, I think he was a photographer. Russ, Howe and Sandi Miller are the people that do most of the narrating in the book, or the writing, I think. There's a lot of photos. Photos taken mainly by fans, I think some photographers, and a lot of the text is by fans. The fans that, not so much gate girls, but women that, and men I guess, who sort of pretty much followed Elvis around the country, taking photos, chatting to him, and becoming, I guess, friends. It was Elvis, I think, considered all of his fans to be friends. Oh damn, the cat's started meowing. Tiger, shut up. So, I'm not going to read too much out of it. There's a foreword by Kathy Westmoreland. And an introduction by Sandi Miller. It's Sandi today. Elvis and Sandi at Elvis's home, wearing her TLC necklace with her daughter Nicole. A photo backstage at Vegas, signed to Sandi from Elvis. So I'll just see what she says in this bit. The general conception of Elvis is that he was a clean-cut, all-American guy who didn't cuss, smoke or drink, and loved his mother and God. That's pretty much the way he was presented to the world, no matter how you sliced it. Like everyone else, I had no reason not to believe that picture. The first time I met him was in 1965. He was soft-spoken and polite. In fact, he was that way all summer. Okay, he often had a cigarette in his hand, but what the heck, all the other stuff was probably true. So as far as I was concerned, he was perfect. As time went by, I found that he had a temper and opinions, and he was rather quirky, moody, and a whole bunch of other things that knocked him right off that pedestal. It also made him like him even more, because what shone through all his eccentricities was an honesty and compassion all wrapped up in the heart of a little boy in the body of a man. He made you forget he was Elvis Presley, that might be hard to fathom, but he accomplished it. He was very complex. He had many different sides to him, depending on who he was around, where he was, and what was going on around him. And it goes on like that. I went from being a starstruck fan who could barely remember anything from the first time I saw him, to realising that he was a man who would do just about anything for anyone. Had a tremendous impact on my life, but he never took over my life. Being a fan took up a lot of my time, but he was a safe pastime when I think about how a lot of other girls my age were spending their free time. Yeah. I still managed to get married, have kids, travel around the world, etc. A subject that came up from time to time with Elvis was the fans and their being around all the time. Don't think for 1 minute that in the back of our minds we didn't always worry that maybe we were bothering him by showing up all the time or taking all those photos. One day the timing was just right, and we had to ask him if it all bothered him, because if it did, well, I don't think we would have continued. He answered that if it ever bothered him, he would tell us. Others said that of course he was not going to say anything different, and he was just being polite. Fact is, there were times where he did not want his photo taken, and there were times when he wanted to be left alone, and he did in fact put out those requests, and they were respected. For the most part, he liked having the fans around, and he always went out of his way to accommodate them, get to know them. He worried about the situations they placed themselves in by being in front of his home so late at night, especially after Sharon Tate was murdered. He asked everybody not to come late at night, because the whole idea of young fans out there at night worried him. too many nuts out there. So, yeah. There were two fans who basically lived in their car, which was always parked outside his house. When he left for Memphis, they would follow him. When he went on location, they would follow him. They were basically his shadow. He didn't seem to have a problem with them following him everywhere. He mentioned they were harmless, but what he did not like was the fact that he was their entire life. I had a long conversation with him about that. He had the mistaken notion that I could talk some sense into them. He didn't want them throwing away their lives, not to mention he worried about their safety and their health, since it's rather hard to take good care of yourself living out of a car. Excuse me. Neither of them was terribly fond of me, so I knew there was no way I could even bring up the subject. As it turns out, he finally approached one of them himself and voiced his concerns, and the answer he got was they were happy and not to worry about them. He said later he did not understand why anyone would want to live like that. That was Elvis. He bothered to care. That was nice, yeah. So, yeah, I think I don't know. I was never in his situation, not Elvis, so I won't say, but yeah, I don't think I would have put up with somebody shadowing me like that. Okay, let's get on. I'll just adjust my camera a little bit so I can get all the photos in. Elvis and Jimmy Dean. It's pretty much chronological, the book. These ones are taken in the 1950s, a very young Elvis. Oh, wow, gorgeous photo. Yeah, a lot of these photos, of course, if you're looking at this book, you never would have seen them before. Some of them we would have seen similar, but not the same ones, depending on who took them. Oh, I think I've seen that one, because I remember that issue of Dig magazine. Excuse me, coughing. Still getting over this cold. Shrine Auditorium, Los Angeles, California. This sort of text, Gail Sanders, I think the text, this written text, is the stuff that's been written by the fans that followed him around. Elvis signs autographs to the members of the Presleyets fan club at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel during the fall of 1956. Oh, shit, bloody cough. Try not to get the glare. Yeah, so if you're, as I say, you're looking for photos of Elvis that you haven't seen before. Oh, what a gorgeous photo. This is the book to get, because I've seen a lot of photos of Elvis, lots of books, and these are pretty much all new to me, from people's personal collections, which make them pretty special. 1963. Yeah, and the text is really good. The girls who, spent that time with him, following him around and watching what he did and talking to him, they had huge insight, into his life and what he was up to at any one time. Let's see if I can pick out any bits. Friday, February 16, 1968, 6 p.m. I pulled into Memphis and parked alongside the curb right across the street from Graceland. It was a very cold 33 degrees outside. As I arrived there at the gates, I saw a small group of people with their backs to me. I recognised Jim and tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around and said, "Charlie, I have someone I want you to meet." As Jim turned, I could see it was Elvis himself standing there in the middle of the half circle of people. I was totally in awe, staring speechless. Jim immediately proceeded introducing me. "Charlie, this is Elvis Presley. Elvis, this is my friend from Jacksonville, Charlie Amoris. Yep. So, looks like that was a guy in that particular case. So the whole book is, I haven't read it completely, but I've browsed it. Is full of these stories. I guess these fans kept journals and diaries. Well, I'd have to remember all that. I know I would, because I'd want to remember every single thing, and nobody's memory's that good that they can remember everything. So you make notes to remind yourself of what happened. Wow, I've seen that photo before, I think. What's this? Line suit from the gospel production number. Yeah. Yeah, well, they certainly had, you've seen some of these shots, that quite a few fans apparently got photos or films of Elvis at his Hollywood homes. The gates. Some of them, that's a terribly flattering photo, but depends on the angle it is. Danny Thomas, Sonny Bono, Davy Jones, Tom Jones. So, let's see what the text is here. Davy Jones of the Monkees was there with his manager, standing at the gate looking through the bars at Elvis's home. In his hand was a piece of paper with the address. Davy asked, "Is this really where Elvis lives?" We told him it was. He then asked, "Does he ever stop and talk to the fans?" Unfortunately, Elvis wasn't home at the time, but Davy would come back another day. He actually lived a short distance behind Elvis in Hollywood Hills. We got to know Davy and his wife fairly well and were invited to their home a few times. I took his photo one morning at his home just before his wife took us shopping. He was a big Elvis fan. I gave him copies of the many of the photos that I'd taken of Elvis. Danny Thomas was a close neighbour to Elvis. He lived one house down from Elvis in the cul-de-sac at the end of Hillcrest. Mr. Thomas would sometimes stop and chat with the fans as he drove by. He once even helped me when I was having trouble with my car. Sonny Bono of Sonny and Cher drove up to Elvis's house a few different times in his Mercedes. The Elvis fans there would recognise him, and he was always kind enough to take a few minutes to talk to those gathered there. Sonny was an Elvis fan, just like the rest of us, hoping to catch a glimpse and maybe say a few. Isn't that amazing? Even some of those top singers and stars were still in awe of Elvis. Wow. I consider myself lucky to have seen him in concert, but God, I'd chop off my right arm just to have had these sort of relationships where you're that close to him. Oh. Distant cousins. 1969 at the International. The after party. This one's interesting. The very first production model of the Stutz Black Hawk came to America in August 1970. Los Angeles car dealer quickly arranged to show the car to Elvis at his Hillcrest home. Elvis loved the car and said he wanted to buy it. Mr. Myers told him that he can sign a contract and the Stutz company would build him a Black Hawk during the following months. Elvis said he wasn't interested in signing a contract. He was interested in buying the car standing next to him. Jules Myers tried to explain. This car was the very first one. He needed it to drive it around, showing its beauty to potential buyers. Elvis answered with a question. Who do you think will sell more cars driving it around, you or me? Mr. Myers saw the point. All he was able to do was ask for a ride home after Elvis wrote a cheque on the spot. Oh, God, I reckon he could talk his way into anything around anything. That's amazing, isn't it? I guess if you got that much money, but even with the money, people might do things, but yeah, he's come across as such a persuasive guy. I think we all know that, don't we? Just listening to him sing. As we say in Australia, he could talk his way out of a paper bag. And his guns and his badges. Elvis and Priscilla, 1971. Muhammad Ali. this is probably one of the nicest, most uneventful weekends they've had up here. Elvis up at 11 a.m, which is very unusual. He was in a very mellow and playful mood, was in and out by the pool until around 4 this afternoon, September 1971. No one in the house except for Joe, Sonny and Charlie. Don't know where the others were, maybe at a hotel. My friend Jan and I got bored, so we got out the colouring book she takes with her everywhere and we started killing some time. We figured the others would show up after the sun sets. After Elvis comes in from the pool, he nonchalantly passes us at the table colouring. He kind of grins and went and got himself a drink, then went back to his room. Comes back dressed, burgundy and black, watched us for a few seconds, then picked up the colouring book, tore out a page for himself and sits down and starts colouring with us. How isn't that gorgeous? Elvis coloured that. Oh, oh God. Oh shit, I love colouring in. I love to think that Elvis coloured one of my colouring books. I think that I've got a colouring book of Elvis himself. Yeah, these sort of books are priceless. They really are. They give you you've seen those, yeah, a real insight into the guy. I mean, you know, we all love Elvis the entertainer, and we sort of think we know what he was like, but you know, you don't really. You sort of get a bit of an idea. He just comes across, even his movies and everything, as just such a lovely, sweet person. His eyes and his smile, everything about him. But unless you're actually there, you don't know. He had some pretty crazy outfits. You wonder if he chose them or if somebody bought them for him. I don't mean his stage outfits, but some of the other outfits he wore. Still, that was his style. He could afford to do it, and he did. He was a leader. When's this dated? This is kind of sad. Where are we? July 1977. Okay. We arrived about 7 p.m. that following evening and were shocked to see Elvis leaving on his Harley with a blue flower arrangement strapped to the rear. I quickly went to the guard shack and asked Harold Lloyd, was that who I think it was? Harold said, yes, that was Elvis, but don't follow him. We waited there and he returned to Graceland within the hour. Earlier that day, we had gone to pay our respects to his mother at Forest Hill, never thinking of Elvis possibly showing up. The next morning we again went to Forest Hill Cemetery, and there on Gladys's grave was the arrangement of blue flowers we had seen the night before on the motorcycle. Elvis had been to visit his mother in a quiet, personal moment. God, that was only a couple of months before he died. Oh, so sad. Oh, shut up, Gina. Let's get on with the book. Oh, so volume 3, okay. That's volume 1, that's apparently not available. This one looks good too. Oh, God. I might have to spend some serious money here, I think. Yeah. So, just go online and look up, where are we? Get the camera in the right spot. Yep. Pray to Me Publishing. And it'll take you straight to the website and everything they've got about Elvis. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.